Welcome everyone to Choice Conversations, the podcast dedicated to helping you improve your life, one choice at a time. I'm your host, Chris Stefanik. Let's do this. All right. This is the fourth installment of the My Life series. Today, I'm going to talk about walking. Why a podcast on walking? Isn't that just a simple thing? Well, there's a bit more to it than that. In this episode, I'm going to go into the nuances of how walking helps me to rock life. How I use walking as one of my cornerstones to take my life to the next level. If you didn't listen to the first 3 episodes of the My Life series, I highly recommend you go back and check those out. They're not a prerequisite for listening to this one or anything, but feel free to continue if you didn't listen to them. I will be sure to put links to those in the show notes, so I recommend you check those out as well. Let's see, just a quick couple updates for the show before we dive into it. I now am on Google+. Now, Choice Conversations has been on Google Plus actually for a long time. I think at least a year or 2, if not more. But I've not really done anything with it, so I don't think I even have any followers or anything. But I know some people like that. I'm typically I'm a Facebook user and I'm starting to get into Twitter. But I know some people, their social media outlet of choice is Google Plus. And I use this tool, Hootsuite, where I can just put in one entry, and with the click of a button, it sends it to all of my social media outlets. So I've got Facebook, Twitter, and Google Plus in there. So now if you want to hear what I've got to say, see the things I'm posting, and you're a Google Plus user, you can now follow me there. So I've put a link to that. It's near the bottom of the show notes. If you go down to the bottom, I think it's probably the second one from the bottom, but you can find me there. As I've mentioned in previous shows, I've now got a Choice Conversations Facebook group, so that's a great place to come and have a conversation. If you want to ask me a question, talk with other people in the group, and also it's a great place for me to get feedback from you all. So I've got a lot of changes I want to implement in the show as I make the show a better product and improve it for you all. There's decision points along the way, and I'd really like to get your feedback, so if you can come there and give me feedback. I'm asking various questions there, and the feedback you give me there is really valuable to me to help me know where you want me to take the show, because this is your show, so we're doing this together. What is also really valuable to me is if you would go to iTunes, of course, and give me a rating and review. That helps other listeners to find the show. I always greatly appreciate that. All right. Enough about that. Let's get into the show. So why walking? Well, simply, walking is the most important exercise. I almost hate to call it an exercise because it's just movement. It's the basic form of movement that humans have, and it is so important. Now, there are tons of studies, like probably literally thousands of studies showing that walking is beneficial. I mean, it's just indisputable. Just doing a quick Google search here. Let's see. The Mayo Clinic says that the scientific studies show that walking helps you to maintain a healthy weight. It prevents and manages various conditions, including heart disease, high blood pressure, and type 2 diabetes. Strengthens your bones and muscles. Improves your mood. Improves your balance and coordination. Let's see, just another one here. I click on another one here. So from arthritis.org. Let's see, this is the Arthritis Foundation, rather. Their website is arthritis.org. 12 benefits of walking. It improves circulation. Again, shores up your bones. Leads to a longer life. Let's read what the research is on this real quick. Okay, research out of the University of Michigan Medical School and the Veterans Administration healthcare system says that those who exercise regularly in their 50s and 60s are 35% less likely to die over the next 8 years than their non-walking counterparts. That number shoots up to 45% less likely for those who have underlying health conditions. Okay, so that's pretty good numbers there. Arthritis Organization also lists lightens your mood. can lead to weight loss. Let's see, it strengthens muscles, improves sleep. So here we go. A study from the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center found that women ages 50 to 75 who took 1 hour morning walks were more likely to relieve insomnia than women who didn't walk. It's walking supports your joints. It improves your breath. While walking, your breathing rate increases, causing oxygen to travel faster through the bloodstream, helping to eliminate waste products and improve your energy level and ability to heal. Walking slows mental decline. Okay, now this is something that's very, very important to me. So it says here, a study of 6,000 women, so pretty good size study, ages 65 and older, performed by researchers at the University of California in San Francisco, found that age-related memory decline was lower in those who walked more. The women walking 2.5 miles per day had a 17% decline in memory, as opposed to a 25% decline in memory for those who walked less than a half mile per week. Let's see, number 11, walking lowers Alzheimer's risk. A study from the University of Virginia Health System in Charlottesville found that men between the ages of 71 and 93 who walked more than a quarter of a mile per day, so not even that much, just more than a quarter of a mile per day, had half the incidence of dementia and Alzheimer's disease compared to those who walked less. Are you kidding me? So between 71 and 93 walked more than a quarter of a mile per day. They had half the incidence of dementia and Alzheimer's disease. Are you kidding me, folks? Unbelievable. Walking helps you do more longer. Number 12. Okay, yeah. Now, this is probably the single biggest reason to walk in my mind. As you age, there are those people who age gracefully and still can continue doing things, living their lives, having the lives they want to live, and being active. And there are those that don't. There are those that have to move on to walkers and wheelchairs and assisted living and are often, pretty miserable. And certainly from a physical standpoint, they're in pretty bad shape. I don't know about you all, but, I'm 41 right now. I'm recording this in mid-August 2016. I plan to live to be 100 years old. I don't really see that there's any reason why, with the way technology is going and with how I take care of my health, that I'm not going to live to be 100 years old. Maybe I won't make it that far. Maybe I'll make it a lot further than that. Who knows? But, that's the plan at this point. When I look around at some people, I have, some elderly friends, people in my family and the like, who they're in their 70s and, they're essentially crippled. And there's nothing wrong with these people other than they're old. And they just sat around and let their bodies decay. And I'm not going out like that. I'll tell you that right now. I am not going out like that. There's other people, 80s, 90s, I know, that are spry and getting along. And the difference between the two is they just never stopped. They never stopped being active. They took care of themselves. So for no other reason, just to say, when 70 comes, at that point, my God, if I'm living to 100, I'm only like 2/3 of the way through my life, I still have a whole third left to go. Are you kidding me? I don't want to live that, in poor physical condition. I'm going to be out enjoying life and doing whatever I want to do. I don't want to have a wheelchair or a walker or have to have people take care of me. And I can tell you right now, that is not going to happen to me. I'm going to be spry pretty much to the day I die, barring, knock on wood, an accident, some kind of accidental dismemberment, I get in a car wreck and lose my legs or something, that changes the equation. But barring, some accident, barring, something along that nature, unforeseen, I can tell you without a doubt, I will be spry going into my final days. So I have no doubt in my mind, I am not going out like that. And I take my health very seriously. I know one of the cornerstones of getting there is going to be walking. There are other cornerstones I'll talk about in other shows, one of which, of course, is diet, reducing stress and things of those nature. But walking is huge. It is the most important, quote unquote, exercise. And another thing that factors into walking, and I'm not sure from the studies, if you're just doing a study on, these people walk this much and they see these benefits, how much of it is the movement and how much of it is getting sunshine and getting out in the fresh air, and getting away from the television set and all of that. That has a mental effect too as well. it's very clear that sunshine is important for health. It's your body basically cannot get enough vitamin D, the vitamin D it needs from food alone. The vitamin D that your body creates by exposure to sunlight is different chemically in the body, and fills different needs in the body than that you consume through food. So if you're not getting enough sunlight, you're going to have a vitamin D deficiency, and that's linked with all kinds of different ailments and poor health. And again, that fresh air and just getting up and having your mind clear and just being outside and being active is a big deal, as opposed to just being inside and active, or worse yet, being inside and sedentary. So, those are some more the benefits of walking. Me, I walk every day. I have a dog, so that's one thing. That's kind of my excuse. But even if I didn't have a dog, I would be walking every day. I'm sure of it. But, I take the dog for a walk, and it's about an hour to an hour and a half a day. And with the one exception to that being, I give myself a rest day. One day a week, I have a rest day where I don't do any exercises, any strength training, any of that. I still walk on that day. I feel like I owe it to my dog to walk. So my wife always tries to correct me and says that it's not a rest day if I'm still doing the activity. But rather than going for an hour and a half walk, I will go for like a 20-minute walk, and I'll just go at like a leisurely pace. And I think that my dog needs that. And and I'm sure it's still good for me to do that, and I'm giving my body that rest day as well. But that's about how much I walk. How do you fit it in, Chris? You ask. Well, I will tell you. Walking, it lends itself really well to multitasking. I know we're all really busy. It's hard to fit in all the things you want to do. I mean, basically, none of us have time to do all the things we want to do, right? So you have to pick and choose what you want to do. Well, a great life hack that I've learned is some things that you can multitask at, killing two birds with one stone, that can really help you to reach your goals, with the limited amount of time there is in a day. Now, in general, multitasking does not work. They've done some studies on that as well. So this kind of multitasking is stuff like, trying to write a report while at the same time answering emails, like going back and forth or whatever. People try to multitask while they're working on computers all the time. Email's a notorious one for this. So again, you're typing up a paper or you're going through whatever it is, and you get a little notification that an email has come in. And so you move away from that to go check your email, and you respond to the email, and then you go back to the report you're working on. And like, oh yeah, I'm great at multitasking. Well, the studies show you actually are much more efficient if you just continue on the thing you're working on, ignore that alert for the email, and then whenever at a later point, go and do your emails and the like. But walking is something that you actually can multitask on and do it well. So what am I talking about? Well, one thing is phone calls. If you have phone calls you have to make, it's a great time to do it. I mean, I have a headset for my phone. If anybody knows of a good headset that is excellent at blocking wind, please let me know. This is a big deal when you're out walking, but I haven't found any that I really like. I have found headsets that block wind, but they had some other issues. So please contact me. If you click on the email button at the top of the page for choiceconversations.com, you can send me an email, or you can contact me through Facebook, or leave a comment on this on the episode or whatever. But I'm always looking for a better headset, because I haven't found one yet that checks all the boxes for me. Let me just put it that way. But at any rate, not to get too distracted on that tangent, phone calls are a great thing to do whenever you're out walking. Meetings, you can call into meetings. You have conference calls, or even if you're in the office. I mean, I work from home, so I always call into my meetings. But even if you're in the office, you could just say, hey, it's a nice day out. Does everybody want to just do a walking meeting today? You guys can go walk around the block or whatever. I've done that before. When I've been in the office, gotten the group to go out and go for a walk for a meeting, and it's really enjoyable. It's really makes the meeting much better, in my opinion. Really helps to keep you fresh in those meetings, because how it is. You're in meetings sometimes, and you start to fade towards the end, just sitting there listening to people drone on and on. But when you're up walking around, it really changes things, and actually makes for more productive meetings. Again, while we're talking about walking around with people and talking, none of us have enough time to. Well, I shouldn't say none of us, but many of us have the problem where we don't have enough time to spend with our friends and loved ones, to get that quality time in. And meanwhile, these same people are, going to the gym 6 days a week or something like that, and they're not with their family. They're not getting quality time in with their family while they're working out at the gym. It's like, well, instead of doing that, I'm not saying ditch all your strength training. Some strength training is necessary, and I'll get into that in another episode of the My Life series, I'm sure. But you don't need a lot of strength training. You do need a lot of walking. And it's a great way to have quality time with your family, to kill two birds with one stone, or really it's more like 3 or 4 birds, because you're getting in, that movement that you need. You're getting in exercise. You're getting in sunshine, like we already talked about, and fresh air. And you're getting in quality time with your family. If you're out with your kids, you're also modeling the healthy behavior to them, teaching them good habits and getting them outside and getting them sunshine and fresh air. It's getting them off of their screens, getting them off their tablets and phones and the like. Again, walking really lends itself to multitasking. Some other things, there's spiritual practices. I talk about, it's meditation is another great way to really rock your life. Having a gratitude practice, these sort of things. They're like, yeah, all these things are great, Chris. These, positive thinking exercises and journaling and all that. I don't have time for that, and now you want me to do that and walking and all this. Well, guess what? This is something you can do while you're walking. You can multitask. They have walking meditations you can do. So, I had on from Meditation Oasis, Mary Maddox. She has a walking meditation. There are others out there. If you just search for walking meditations, they're out there. So you can do that. Journaling, you could do an audio journal that you record on your phone while you're going. Again, put a headset on and record it. I use Evernote, but there's tons of apps for that sort of thing. A gratitude practice, positive thinking, affirmations, and the like. You can easily do these while you're walking. There's no reason that you couldn't, and really have a really nice impact to get the benefits of both walking and these different, quote unquote spiritual practices. And of course there's audiobooks and podcasts. That's another thing too. I think that's one probably most people think of right away. They might think less of these other ones, but when all else fails, it's an opportunity to get in a book reading that you otherwise may not have time to read, while you're getting this healthy movement in. And another one too is, we all have email and we spend so much time on email. I don't know if there's any good apps for checking email that would read the email to you, and then you could reply to them all through audio, just doing like a speech to text app. I don't know if there's any good apps for that or not. If there are, again, contact me and let me know. I'd love to hear it. If there's not, you could consider hiring a VA, a virtual assistant. You can get them for pretty cheap. Somebody out of the third world, someone in the Philippines or India or whatever. And what you would be doing is you'd be talking to them over Skype while you're on your walk. And they would be dictating to you, they would be reading to you your emails. And then if you needed to reply back, you could dictate the message to them and they could type it up and send it out for you. So that'd be a way to take care of your emails while you're getting a walk in. So you do have time to get walking in. Trust me. I'm sure probably all of you probably spend an hour a day between phone calls and emails alone. You probably spend an hour a day, let alone these other things that I'm talking about. I very rarely am ever just out for a walk. I'm always going for a walk with my family or in a meeting or one of these other things. That's how I have the time to walk every day. Okay, so what else about walking? What are the other tricks that I have? What are the other secrets that I have to make walking such a great thing in my life? Well, one thing is good posture. Posture, if you're going to be doing this, especially, regularly, like I'm recommending, like an everyday thing, going out, an hour a day, you want to make sure that you're not having bad form and doing this basically a repetitive motion and with bad form, that could in some ways hurt your health more than it's helping it. You're going to still get some benefits of the walking, but you're going to, exacerbate some other issues in your body if you've got bad posture. So this is where the sitting solution comes in. The sitting solution has great advice in there on the correct posture for standing, which then just translates into having that posture and walking as well. As most of you know, my longtime listeners anyway, know that I'm a big proponent of the sitting solution. I'm an affiliate of it. I'm a big believer in it. I'm a user of it. This is something that I think it's important. If walking is going to be a big part of your life, of your health routine, you need to make sure you're doing it right. So get the sitting solution. I've got the link for it in my show notes. And if you could click on that and purchase that, I think you'll see some benefits for sure. I know it's been great for me. And, in addition to just instructions on improving your posture, there are many corrective exercises that are included in the sitting solution. I want to make sure that it's clear that's not just all it is. It's about getting better posture when you're sitting, when you're standing. There are many corrective exercises in there to help you undo the damage that you've done to your body by sitting with bad posture, standing with bad posture for your life and to this point. That damage that's done to your body in some ways can make it difficult for you to even have good form when you're walking and have good form when you're standing and sitting, because your body is transformed. It started to adapt to a sitting position, and you need these exercises to gain that mobility back, to gain that flexibility to undo that damage. So lots of good stuff in the sitting solution, and that will get you to the point where you can have excellent posture when you're walking and really do it right. So what about shoes? Well, barefoot is pretty freaking awesome, actually. If you can go barefoot, that's a great way to go. If not barefoot, then minimalist shoes. So, I go barefoot when I'm walking around my yard, or if I'm at the beach, things like that. Otherwise, I'm wearing minimalist shoes. I've got minimalist shoes for walking. I have minimalist shoes for dress as well. If I have to dress up and go to the office once in a while, I occasionally have to do that, even though I work from home, or dress up for just some other event. I have minimalist shoes for that as well, for all areas of my life. But yeah, especially when walking, if you're going to go out and you want to get the full benefits of it, I would recommend either barefoot or minimalist shoes. And, why is that important? Well, it's important because there's a lot of benefits that you gain. I mean, it really strengthens your feet. It provides flexibility to your feet. And you have healthy feet, healthier bones, much better balance. I mean, there's a great analogy that Katie Bowman talks about. Katie Bowman, she's from nutritiousmovement.com, the Katie Says podcast. She's somebody I would recommend you check out as well at some point. She has this analogy about casts, how modern living creates many casts in our life, and your shoes can be a cast. Modern shoes, normal shoes, not minimalist shoes. So what does that mean? All right, well, think about if you have your arm in a cast, and let's say it's around the elbow, and so you can't move your elbow, right? It's locked in position. Well, while it's locked like that, you start to lose the flexibility, you start to lose strength, your muscles are atrophying, your body immediately starts adapting to whatever it is you're doing. And when you take the cast off, then there's an adjustment period. You've got to build your arm back up, build the flexibility, build the strength. You might need a physical therapist, depending on how long the cast was in there, that sort of thing, because your body adapts. What she says is those casts, they don't always just look like a cast that you would get at the hospital, where you got your arm or your leg in a cast or whatever. They can have all kinds of appearances, and your shoes are a cast that prevent your foot from having the full range of motion, from having the full experience of walking and standing and moving around. And so it's not as strong. It's not as flexible. The bones, the muscles, the ligaments, all of it. If you're wearing regular shoes, you're walking around with casts on and everything that goes along with that. I highly recommend you go with minimalist shoes. Now, if you're used to wearing regular shoes, there is an adjustment period. I know I like the Vibram 5-finger shoes. If you go to their website, they will give you instructions on how to ease into them. And a lot of people have just tried to jump right in from wearing regular shoes, or especially like women wearing high heels, jump right into wearing these Vibram 5-fingers and go out for a jog or something like that and end up hurting their feet or whatever. You're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to ease into them. I did just jump into it and I was just fine, but I don't recommend that. I recommend you follow what they say on their website. The instructions there are pretty clear about how to work your way into it, but the benefits are great. So, when I'm barefoot in my yard, I'm barefoot around my house. I never wear shoes in my house or at the beach. And then the rest of the time I'm wearing like the Vibram 5-fingers, or I like Merrell shoes. I wear some Merrells. I'm trying to think what my dress shoes are. I've got a great pair of dress shoes. If that's important to you, contact me, hit me up on Facebook or whatever, and I'll let you know what shoes I like. And another benefit of going barefoot outside, at least some people are big believers in this, it's grounding. Grounding, it's sometimes called earthing as well. And it involves connecting with the Earth's conductive system and transferring. It's the transfer of the Earth's electrons from the ground into the body and the like. So this happens whenever you are in touch with the Earth's surface without wearing shoes, and you can actually measure it by hooking up an electrical device to you and measuring the charge in your body, and you can see the difference whenever you're there. And there's a lot of reported benefits like better sleep and reduced pain and things of this nature. I will say that the science behind it, the evidence supporting these claims is still not conclusive at this point, but a lot of people are big believers in it. Like, I just mentioned Katie Bowman, she's got a big following. She's doing great work. She's somebody I really respect, and she's a big believer in grounding. So if nothing else, it can't hurt to go out and be grounded. So if you're taking your shoes off and playing in the yard with your kids, it can't hurt that you're getting some grounding in at the same time, along with all these other benefits I've talked about. And another thing about these shoes is the comfort. I actually find them really comfortable. I know people who first make the switch to minimalist shoes are like, oh my God, these are so uncomfortable. And the thing is you don't have that cushion. There is no cushion there. It's basically minimalist shoes are just a thin layer of plastic protecting your foot from like any glass or pointed rocks you would step on. But otherwise, it's pretty close to just being barefoot. It's pretty close to just like what it would feel like to walk around in socks, and without having that cushion that people are used to and on all that support. A lot of people say they're not comfortable. I think they're really comfortable. I think they're much more comfortable than quote unquote regular shoes, traditional shoes that are really binding on the foot. I mean, another great thing about minimalist shoes, in addition to not having that cushion in there, which is a cast, is they're very open on the ends. So they're not a shoe that like tapers in, squeezing your toes together. Again, that's a kind of cast. Instead, they're nice and open on the ends. Either you get the Vibram 5-fingers, which actually has each toe can fully function like wearing a glove on your feet, or some of the other minimalist shoes, like I mentioned the Merrells earlier, that they look more like traditional shoes, but they don't taper in at the toes, and they're just very comfortable. And I find my performance in them is great. Like when I go out sprinting or they really grip the ground. Those Vibram 5-fingers, the grip you get by having those, the flexibility of your foot to be able to touch the ground, each toe being able to move independently and the like, and the balance. And they can just adapt to the ground surface so much better that it really makes a lot of sense that your performance would be better. And I've certainly experienced that when I'm out, especially when I'm walking on trails and walking on natural surfaces instead of sidewalks or paved roads. You can really notice the benefit you get from a performance standpoint wearing minimalist shoes, as far as your balance and ability to handle the different contours of the road. And speaking of walking on natural trails, that leads to the next part of my tricks and tips for maximizing your walking experience. Is I try to walk on trails as much as possible, natural trails rather than sidewalks. This again is a type of cast. If you're always walking on a flat surface, if you're always working on a sidewalk, even if it's hills, if it's always flat, your feet are never having to deal with what it's like to walk on land that isn't flat. That puts a whole different kind of stress on your feet. If you can imagine what that's like, and what it does to your feet, what it does to your ankles, and the muscles of the whole lower body, it's really a very different experience. And it's a cast. You're losing something if you're only always walking on flat surface. So I try to, as much as possible, walk on natural surfaces. So I've got a lot of nature trails around my house. I love walking them. I've got a great trail that goes around a lake that's beautiful. I love doing that. Even when I'm walking and there's a sidewalk, I'll walk to the side of the sidewalk and in the grass beside it, so that I'm getting that natural grass feel, or the natural feel. I'm getting the different contours of the ground, and really just maximizing my time out there, maximizing the health benefits I'm getting from this, and my ability to grow old gracefully, and to keep my mobility and to keep in tip-top shape. All right, well, before I head into my next section of the podcast, I'm going to read for you a little bit of an article, and you'll see after the article why I'm reading this to you, because it definitely relates to how I'm walking. This article, it's called Memory Problems? Go Climb a Tree, and it's from kurzweil.net. All right, so climbing a tree or balancing on a beam can dramatically improve cognitive skills, according to a study recently conducted by researchers in the Department of Psychology at the University of North Florida. The study is the first to show that proprioceptively dynamic activities like climbing a tree, done over a short period of time, have dramatic working memory benefits. Working memory, the ability to process and recall information, is linked to performance in a wide variety of contexts, from grades to sports. Proprioception, awareness of body positioning and orientation, is also associated with memory. All right, I'm going to skip a little ahead. If you'd like to read the whole article, I will have it in the show notes. The University of North Florida researchers recruited adults aged 18 to 59 and tested their working memory. Next, they undertook, here's that word again, proprioceptively dynamic activities designed by the company MoveNat, which required proprioception and at least one other element such as locomotion or route planning. In the study, such activities included climbing trees, walking and crawling on a beam approximately 3 inches wide, moving while paying attention to posture, running barefoot, navigating over, under, and around obstacles, as well as lifting and carrying awkwardly weighted objects. After 2 hours, participants were tested again, and researchers found that their working memory capacity had increased by 50%, a dramatic improvement. And skipping a little bit again, there's a quote from one of the researchers. This research suggests that by doing activities that make us think, we can exercise our brains as well as our bodies. This research has wide-ranging implications for everyone from kids to adults. By taking a break to do activities that are unpredictable and require us to consciously adapt our movements, we can boost our working memory to perform better in the classroom and in the boardroom. The aim of the study was to investigate the effects of proprioception on working memory. It was also of interest whether an acute or highly intensive period of exercise would yield working memory gains. The training group completed a series of proprioceptively demanding exercises. There were also control classroom and yoga groups. Working memory was measured using a backward digit recall test. The data indicated that active, healthy adults who undertook acute, proprioceptively demanding training improved working memory scores compared to the classroom and yoga groups. One possible reason that the training yielded significant working memory gains could be that the training was proprioceptively dynamic, requiring proprioception and at least one other factor such as locomotion and navigation at the same time, which may have contributed to the improvements in working memory performance. All right, so why was I reading that to you? Well, first of all, I think it's pretty darn cool that our body is so linked. People often associate like the brain as being something separate from the body, like brain health. There's brain health and then there's your body health. But the brain is part of the body and they are so linked. And if you have an unhealthy body, you're going to have an unhealthy brain. Likewise, if you have an unhealthy brain, you're going to have an unhealthy body. They can both negatively impact each other if you're not taking care of them. You can get gains in your brain by working on your body, and gains in your body by working on your brain too as well. So it's really, really fascinating to me. And so how does this work into this podcast on walking? Well, first of all, I had already said that, I make sure that I have good posture. If you recall, some of the activities that they listed as qualifying was walking while paying attention to body posture. So I already mentioned that, so I'm already hitting on one of these. But now I'm going to talk about some of the other ones. So they also talked about walking or crawling on a beam approximately 3 inches wide. Whenever I'm walking, I'll look for trees that are fallen. On the nature trail, there's always several trees that are fallen. And I'll walk across the fallen tree, across the trunk lying on the ground. There are a number of boardwalks and bridges, little bridges that'll go over a little creek or something like that. And right along the edge of the bridge or right along the edge of the boardwalk, they'll be raised up a few inches off the walking platform, like a ridge that's a few inches wide that runs along the border of the bridge or the boardwalk. I'll balance on that and walk across. And I really have fun with it. I love doing it. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. Where it's kind of like a game. I'll sometimes see how fast I can go and see if I can even run across it. And I have a lot of fun with it. So I'm getting that in. Another spot I can get it in is if I'm walking and there's a road. The roads typically will have a curb along the edge, a concrete curb. I'll sometimes balance on the curb and walk along the curb just to challenge myself and to help my brain, to really work my body and mind in a different way. I also like jumping over and onto obstacles. So if there's a tree stump, I'll jump up on that. Or like I said, if there's a fallen tree, I'll jump up on that. Or there's actually, in the trail I go around, there's a number of these grates. And I don't know what they're for, but I think it's for water draining, almost like a manhole cover. Basically, it's a manhole cover on top of this concrete, I don't even know what you would call it, this concrete cylinder. But they'll stick out of the ground 2 or 3 feet high. And I'll run up and leap on top of them and then leap down the other side, and just I try to have a lot of fun with it, make it into a game. As a kid, you would see them do, running and jumping up on top of something and jumping down. You see often, especially little boys, it seems like if there's an obstacle like that, it's meant to be climbed on, it's meant to be jumped on. Well, when I see one, that's what I do. I go for it. I jump on it, I climb on it. I play games going from tree root to tree root. On the trail, there'll be tree roots growing across it, and I'll see how far I can go without actually touching the ground, just sticking to tree roots, hopping from them. Again, just making it fun, turning it into an obstacle course. If I see a good tree branch for doing a pull-up, I'll grab that and do a pull-up, maybe hang on it for a bit, do some swing on it back and forth. It's an obstacle course. One other thing that they mentioned in this article as being the kind of activity that would be so great for your brain and for your memory was sprinting barefoot. Brings me into the closing stretch of this podcast. I work sprints into my walks. While I'm not barefoot, I am wearing the barefoot shoes, if you will. I'm wearing the minimalist shoes, the Vibram 5 fingers, which are as close to barefoot as you're going to get without being barefoot. And I do that once or twice a week. I will work in sprints while I'm just in the middle of my walk. I'll warm up with the walk and then sprint. Usually I'm looking for 30 to 60 seconds, going all out, just as fast as I can possibly go, leaving it all out on the trail, not holding anything back, and doing 8 to 10 sprints like that. So sprint for 30 to 60 seconds, then maybe walk for 2 or 3 minutes to catch my breath, and then do it again, and do that 8 to 10 times, once or twice a week. And it's not just this memory and brain health that sprinting is great for. It's awesome for a lot of stuff. Again, I'll just go hit up handy dandy Google and see what it has to say here. Bear with me a second. Okay, let's see here. We've got 8 reasons everyone should do sprints. Let's just see what this has to say. Number 1, lose fat fast with sprinting. Research shows that repeated sprint training is the only form of conditioning to produce significant fat loss, and it does so in amazingly small amounts of training time. Scientists write that compared to steady-state aerobic training, which produces disappointing fat loss, sprints are much more effective for fat loss in shorter time. A classic 1994 study is indicative of this. Participants did either 20 weeks of steady-state aerobic training or 15 weeks of intervals, 15 sprints for 30 seconds each. The interval group lost 9 times more body fat and 12% more visceral belly fat than the aerobic group. Wow. That's pretty impressive. All right, there's more, but I'm going to skip on to number 2 here. Build muscle and target fast twitch fibers. Sprint training will help you build muscle, and it preferentially increases the size and strength of the powerful fast twitch fibers. Studies show sprinting enhances protein synthesis pathways by as much as 230%. Pretty impressive. With the right nutrition and recovery, this will lead to muscle building, allowing you to look leaner and run faster. And this is one, I'm going to continue reading this section. All right, in addition, sprint training has repeatedly been shown to increase anabolic hormones that improve body composition. For instance, male wrestlers who did short sprint training significantly increased testosterone and decreased cortisol, leading to a favorable ratio between the two hormones for building muscle and for fat loss. Women won't experience the same increase in testosterone, but sprints will increase growth hormone, burning fat, and building muscle for a strong, lean outcome. In fact, some studies indicate that women have higher baseline GH, growth hormone, and may get a bigger boost in GH in response to intense training, although more research needs to be done. Yes, that's definitely one. I wonder why they just say women. I had heard that men also get human growth hormone as well whenever they sprint. They're just mentioning women in that section, though. I'll have to research that some more, but that was one of the reasons to sprint. In addition to the beneficial ratio of testosterone and cortisol, and cortisol is also really involved in inflammation. Higher levels of cortisol means higher levels of inflammation, so lowering that should help lower your chances for systemic inflammation, which is associated with heart disease and cancer and premature aging and all kinds of stuff. So that's another added benefit there. And like I said, I feel like human growth hormone. You know what? I'm just going to stop and look that up right now. If men get human growth hormone as well from sprinting. Okay, so I found this article from rewildthyself.com. It's titled, How to Use Sprinting to Spike HGH 771%. HGH is human growth hormone. It says in here, human growth hormone has many functions in the adult body. Some of these include increasing bone density, increasing muscle mass, stimulating the breakdown of fat cells, stimulating protein synthesis. So lots of good stuff. Okay, and they show here, that one study compared the blood levels of HGH in individuals who completed a 6-second sprint against individuals who completed a 30-second sprint. While the 6-second sprint did increase human growth hormone, 30-second sprints increased growth hormone blood levels 430% higher than 6 seconds. So it does look like, and they don't mention anything about this being just linked with women. It's effective for men and women. Let's see what they say about getting it to increase 771%. A 430% increase from a single sprint is a very nice dosage, but sprint intervals, aka high-intensity interval training, will have an even greater impact on high levels. A study conducted by Phil Campbell and his colleagues showed that 8 sprint intervals with a rest between each sprint increased human growth hormone levels by an average of 771%. After 8 weeks, the average body fat lost was 31%. In terms of body fat loss, sprint training is shown here to be twice as effective than human growth hormone injections. All right, well, there you go. And look, that's pretty much exactly how I'm doing mine. I'm doing 8 to 10 sprints, 30 to 60 seconds with a break in between them. So I'm also doing the HIIT, the high-intensity interval training. Cool. Good to know that. All right. So anyways, going back to the original article, 8 reasons everyone should do sprints. So number 3, increases endurance and work capacity. Number 4, improves heart health. Let's see the example here, what it says. A 2011 study in overweight women showed increased stroke volume and lower training and resting heart rate after 4 weeks of cycle sprint training. Number 5, improve insulin sensitivity and energy use. A number of studies show anytime you alternate intense bursts of exercise with rest periods, you will improve insulin sensitivity and blood sugar tolerance. This is partly because sprints decrease chronic inflammation and partly because the cells must adapt to more efficiently produce energy to keep you going. Sprints improve insulin health in the young, old, overweight, diabetic, and folks with metabolic syndrome. As mentioned earlier, they increase fat burning during training, lead to measurable post-workout calorie burn. It goes on and on. Let's just go to the next one here so we're not here all day. You get the idea. There's a lot of good benefits here. So number 6, improve conditioning, circulation, and lung function. Number 7, improve cognition, brain volume, and prevent disease. So this likens back to the conversation we were just having about that article, Memory Problems, Go Climb a Tree, where they said one of the ways to improve your memory is to sprint. So let's see what they say here. It's no surprise that sprint training makes your brain work better and can make you happier, since just about every form of exercise has been shown to reap some mental benefits. Sprint training leads the pack. It decreases inflammation in the brain, improves hormone balance, leads to better mobility, and makes you feel energized and capable after you blast through a series of repetitions that test your abilities. Number 8, save time while building mental toughness. Okay, I'm not going to read this. There's like 3 or 4 paragraphs underneath this, but save time. It's obviously doesn't take a whole lot of time to get some serious good exercise in. When you're talking about 30-second sprints, doing 8 of them with just a minute or 2 break between, you can get a great workout in short order. And mental toughness, sprints are hard. That's the hardest part, actually, is getting myself to do the sprints. Is just, I don't really ever want to do them. Once I get started, it's funny, after I do 1 or 2, I actually kind of enjoy them then, and it's kind of exhilarating to go all out like that and just really push myself just fully 100%. Of course, it doesn't work if you don't push yourself 100%. That's the key here. In case you're new to this, to get these kind of benefits, you really have to give everything. Don't hold anything back. But it's challenging on the body. But it's hard to get that first one in there, to get, just overcome that mental side of doing this hard thing. But once I get started, I don't have a problem continuing and finishing. And I feel really good after finishing that, I really accomplished something and pushed myself. But yeah, so anyways, there you have it. Sprints are awesome. It's kind of a love-hate relationship. They're tough. I have a hard time getting myself to do them, but once I get started, I do kind of love them. They do feel great, and I feel great afterwards for accomplishing something that was not easy. Everybody should be doing them, unless you have some kind of handicap that prevents you from doing them. Even then, if there's other ways to sprint besides just using your legs, you can go all out on other exercises. So, there's such thing as sprinting in the pool, quote unquote sprinting, doing just a 30 seconds as fast as you can, swimming or whatever. I imagine you could probably take many exercises and have a similar kind of concept. But that's worked into my walking. So you're getting the idea now that when I said my walking, how am I going to do a whole podcast on walking? There's more to it than just going out and going for a walk. I have a lot that I put into it. This is my keystone exercise. This is my keystone movement. I've researched it. I've experimented with a lot of stuff, and I'm rocking it out, to help me achieve the best possible version of myself. And I guess the last thing I will just say, and I briefly mentioned it earlier, is I do work in a rest day. So I do this 6 days a week where I walk. On 2 of those days I work in sprints, and on 1 of the days a week I have a rest day where I'm not doing any strength training, I'm not doing any sprinting, I'm not doing any yoga or other exercises. You'll hear more about some of the other exercises I work in here and there. Calisthenics, I've talked about in my morning routine, my life episode, that I like to do calisthenics in the morning. On my rest day, I don't do any of that. The only exercise I do is just a real leisurely 20-minute walk to get the dog out of the house for a little bit, and that's it. But that's kind of good for recovery to have that. You need a rest day for recovery. But yeah, that's my show on walking. I talked about the benefits, listed off several of them, several studies, talked about getting out in the sunshine, how I fit it in, with how little time there is to do all the things we want to do. Well, one of the big things I do is I multitask. I make sure that I'm using this time to get in more than just walking. I talked about how I use excellent posture as I learned from the sitting solution, which I'm recommending you go click on the link in the show and purchase that. If you couple what's going on in the sitting solution, those exercises, the posture correction in there with regular walks, walking every day, that's just going to be huge for your health. I told you about the benefits of going barefoot and wearing minimalist shoes, how that helps you to break free from the casts that normal, regular, traditional shoes, mainstream shoes, put your feet in. How walking on the side of the trail rather than on the sidewalk, on natural trails, that also is another way of breaking through those casts of always walking on a flat surface, and the benefits you're going to gain from your feet, the health your feet will gain. I talked about making it fun and making it like an obstacle course, working in jumping and climbing and balancing and all this sort of stuff, and just really having fun with it. And then lastly, I talked about sprints and the importance of sprinting and how I work them in. A lot of information there. Like I said, if you work this in to your routine, even if you don't have to do all of these things I'm talking about, just getting out there and walking, even, like I said, get the sitting solution, learn the correct posture, and get out there and just start walking. Just that alone, whether you go with minimalist shoes or whether you're jumping on top of tree stumps or not, just getting out there and walking, even if it's not an hour a day, to get out there for a half hour a day. If you're really in poor health and even a half hour is too much for you, walk to the end of your street, walk to the end of your driveway. The next day, go a couple steps further, and the next day after that, go a couple steps further, and just keep going till you can get out to your walking half hour a day or get out to your walking an hour a day. That one study I mentioned earlier, it was only a quarter mile a day could reduce your chances for Alzheimer's and dementia by 50%. Unreal. I can't recommend this enough to you. I know you can do it. If you're listening to the show, I know you're very interested in improving your life, and this is one of the ways to get you there. This is a key if you want to get there, to improve your life, to live the best life you can, to be the best possible version of yourself that you can be. All right, I don't think I can end it any better than that. If you found this show to be valuable, do me a huge favor and share it with your friends. Share it on social media. I'd be hugely grateful. And you know what else I'm hugely grateful for? Just that you decided to spend some time with me today and listen to this show. That's so awesome. I know your time is precious, and it means a lot to me. Thank you so much. Take care. You're beautiful. And remember, make the choice to be great.